It'll be fine.
Yeah,
It'll be fine. I told you.
I was lost for a second there. I was like, which way are we going?
Yeah, I didn't have the. I still don't have. I got to work on my technique, man. The fingering is just off.
Do this.
That joke gets way more creepy when I do the hand movement. I probably
You probably
that.
should have done.
I apologize.
There's some video now. People can see that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more evidence.
Yeah, I'm suddenly regretting being affiliated with that.
You're going to pull out faster than a lot of Trump supporters.
What are you talking about? A lot of them are Catholic. They don't pull out.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And they don't wrap up. Anyway, so I'm not going to bash the Catholics on this one. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. I guess, I'm going to have to start calling these daily dialecticals because that's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing.
So this is going to be another daily dialectical. And we didn't even do that fake shit where we changed clothes to try and pretend like it was a different day.
That's true. We did.
Yeah, y'all are watching this on a different day, but it's the same fucking day. Time travel.
Hey, you know what?
Come back from the future and tell us how it was. I wish that's the way the internet worked.
Dude, if Marty McFly walks in that door right now, I'm going to be upset.
I'm going to try and have to convince him to make a better movie. Like, Don't Fuck Your Mom.
Yeah.
I have a lot of issues with that movie. That movie was just fucking horrible. Even the first time I watched it. And then, like, I tried to go back as an adult and watch it. And then, like, everyone started pointing
Futurama
out.
version of that is hilarious.
Okay, well, everything Futurama did was good. But that movie in and of itself was kind of trash.
Yeah, it wasn't. How I don't know where to go with this one. It was that bad. It was that bad.
Oh, it gave you a fucking stroke.
Dude, I'm telling you, my synapses just hit pause for a second. They're like, you're thinking about that movie? No!
Yes. That being said, a lot of people that were involved in that movie were absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Michael J. Fox, Crispin Glover. I cannot remember the dude that played the doctor at the moment. Oh, fuck.
He actually took a picture with my kid one time.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Why can I not remember? Oh,
I don't know. I can't remember it either right now.
I said Crispin Glover.
You said
I?
Crispin Glover.
Yeah. The dude that played Biff, I can't remember his name either, but he's a great fucking comedian.
Yeah, he's actually really funny.
And he's got a beautiful voice too.
I did get to meet him as well. They were doing a Futurama thing at Fan Expo.
Did you ask him to call you a butthead?
No, I was actually a little embarrassing. We had decided to dress up like characters from Mad Max, and I had a skull tied to my belt with some 550 cord through it, and we called it Biff, and we wrote on the top of it, "Biff didn't make it," and I was getting celebrities to sign it, which is really cool. I mean, I got freaking Chuck Norris to sign it.
Holy shit!
Yeah, he's actually a really friendly guy. I sat down and his wife and him, they talked to us for about 20 minutes just about their nonprofit and how we could make mine better. And
that's awesome. Yeah,
and he was really friendly, and he was like, "Why do you have a skull?" And so I told him. He goes, "Dude, what are you gonna do then?" I'm like, "I don't know. And collect signatures." He goes, "I'll sign it."
Oh shit, that's a great starting point. Holy fuck! I remember as a kid driving around. How far is Huffines from here where you grew up?
About 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how you drive.
Oh, okay, so like we're not that far outside of Dallas, and Merritt's just like that way. It's not very far. So like we would be around in the area. So one of the things that I remember growing up is occasionally you would see them filming Walker, Texas Ranger.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
So like you just like look out the window and randomly there's a fucking film crew like over on that side road and he's like walking around and shit. It's pretty badass. Awesome. Yeah. It was very exciting for a kid growing up in Merritt because it was Merritt.
Well,
there's fucking nothing going on.
Well, I'll tell you what is going on. OnlyFans.
OnlyFans,
and the Libertarian Party. Oh my God!
Spreading the libertarian to the masses through libertarian asses. I love this. I love this so much.
That slogan is so fantastic.
I got excited in more than one way when you told me about this. There's the picture.
And just for reference, I'm a giant libertarian. I believe in personal liberty and personal accountability. I don't believe in government control.
Yes. I am not politically affiliated. I do appreciate the Libertarian Party and the things that they're trying to accomplish. I just have my own frustrations with being affiliated to a political party.
Right. And the only reason I identify as libertarian is people ask me what my political leanings are. Really, it's independent. But okay, these guys got a idea that I can get on board with.
Yeah, I'm just one of those people that I annoyingly have to have the long conversation because people are like, "Oh, how are you affiliated?" And then I'll be like, "Well, I'm not." And they're like, "Well, then you don't stand for anything." I'm like, "Actually, I do." Turns out you don't have to just back a single party. because that party represents more than one thing.
2 hours later.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, I'm one of those people. I get stuck in having the long conversation because I get frustrated with people who vote party line.
Well, the reason this news though is so kind of sensational is that there's no political party that's ever tried this before. And
sorry, I pulled the picture up.
Yeah, no, there is a picture.
That's gonna seem extra creepy.
He's 100%. He's 100% right. There is a photo. If you actually go to Libertarian Candidate News, libertariancandidates.news, I'll get it right in a minute. It's a blog, but they actually link to it, and it's the I cannot speak today.
Penobscot County.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
All right, folks, hang in there.
So you can find them at Twitter at Maine Libertarians. It's the Penobscot County Libertarian Party. And essentially what they've done is they've found a new way to, you made me lost my words.
Yeah, no, they're fundraising. They're actually crowdsourcing money from donors at this point, and
which every political party does.
Make no mistake, you are donating to a political party if you're on their OnlyFans, and they're doing it
on OnlyFans.
They're doing it live.
And yeah, that's what makes this fun. And so I love this quote. We chose OnlyFans as a fundraiser because Democrats and Republicans earn money in dirtier ways. Dirtier ways than this. We are honest about it. OnlyFans doubles down on our belief that sex work is legitimate work and helps further legitimize this market for fundraising purposes.
Right.
I love this. There's absolutely nothing about this story that I think I have a problem with.
Well, okay, so a lot of people in the mainstream media have a problem with it. And they're not really covering it too terribly closely. There's been a couple of mentions here and there, mostly on the right, because they think they're afraid of this.
I think they're afraid of it.
I don't know if they're afraid of it so much, or is it flies in the face of their
they're
expressed morals.
They're
and their
repulsed
base.
Because, typically with the Republican Party, you've got the conservatives who are all about their religious ideologies, and this is something that they're not going to find to be moral. I, however, am very much of the belief that sex work is legitimate, should be legalized and destigmatized. And so for there to be a political party that is actually actively working towards that and not just saying it, they're not just like, oh, yeah, you're right, and then they go fuck off. They're utilizing it to show, hey, there is a productive side to this. You can get a positive outcome to this. And I love that.
Well, okay, so I agree with everything you said except for one thing.
Okay.
So the destigmatization of sex work, I think, is an unattainable goal. So even in Europe, where if you happen to be a sex worker, you are somewhat regulated and you have testing that has to be done and you have to be licensed and this kind of thing. Even then, there's a stigma to it that you're just not going to get away from, at least not in any kind of near future that we could possibly imagine. Now, the rest of it, pretty well accurate. There shouldn't be any reason to say you can't be a sex worker.
Yeah. And sense. I'm not unreasonable to think that suddenly they're going to become the new heroes of society, although I would say they take a hard job.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about the two old parties and what their goals are, they like tax dollars. Well, there's a new tax source for it. Same thing that cannabis has been. Yeah,
but the problem is as much as they love money, it's very difficult to convince them of certain revenue sources because there's so much stigma against them.
It's not just that, it's their base. So the guys that actually put them into the
elected and that's what I'm saying. Like the overall party, there's still so much of a stigma against these things because stoners are bad people, and I've never met a stoner that went out violently hurting people. Some of them have been bad people, but that's just because they were bad people. We didn't do it.
They've been bad people, and I acknowledge that some stoners are bad people, but I also want to indicate that in a lot of cases, stoners are just lazy stoners. Yeah. They just want to chill, have a good time, eat some munchies. And
they're a lot of fun to be around.
By all means, go off and do that.
Yeah. And so like, when I say destigmatize, I don't think that people are suddenly going to be cheering for sex workers, but a lot of people right now, they go out and they ostracize sex workers because they're automatically deemed less than. And I also get that you're not going to completely eradicate that. Like anything that's garnered this level of stigma, you're never going to completely get rid of it. But I do think that we could actively try.
You have a Karen scenario going on here. So Karen's worried about Bob going off and getting with one of these sex workers and cheating on her in a completely legal and legitimate way and somehow wrecking their marriage. So Karen doesn't want to give Bob that opportunity because she's insecure in her current relationship and cannot go to marriage counseling or be bothered to pay for it.
Yes, except for that opportunity already exists for Bob.
I agree.
Because sex workers are already a thing.
But I'm just saying that's the way Karen's voting.
Yeah, but that would it's further proof that Karen in this scenario is a dumbass.
Well, Karens of the world tend to not.
I'm trying not to just lump them all into that one word.
If you happen to be named Karen, I apologize. That's just the colloquialism.
I'm making an effort here. I agree with the sentiment completely, but I was making somewhat of an effort there. But so all the arguments that I've heard against sex work over the years of me having this conversation is, well, crime rates will go up. We have evidence against that. STDs will go up. We have evidence against that.
Okay, now that one's BS. Because if you have no, I'm saying their arguments BS.
Okay.
STDs will not go up, especially if you regulate it properly.
Yeah.
Or when I say regulate, I once again I hate government control, and here I am arguing for some regulation. But let's say that in order to be, I know, in order to be a sex worker, you have to at least have a license and be tested and that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, on the flip side of that, when you're talking about crime rates going up, actually it'd be the opposite, because right now crime rates will go up because you have pimps that are currently regulating their working girls or guys, depending on what the flavor is, or somewhere in between, depending on what that flavor is. And in that scenario, that does influence crime, because it influences crimes where the pimp actually goes off and performs physical violence against some of his workers.
Right.
Or he comes in and says, okay, well, I need you guys to do a side hustle here, and let's sling some cocaine while you're at it. And if you have a legalized situation, there's no real incentive for the sex worker to go off and do anything illegal.
Yeah, you're essentially giving the power to the people, to the actual workers in this scenario.
Exactly. You're giving a job.
And much like my argument for legalizing marijuana specifically is, you're taking people that may have grown up in an illegal enterprise, and now you're offering them the opportunity to take all of the knowledge garnered and create a legal enterprise. You've essentially made criminals into business people.
Which arguably...
They already know the trade.
I was going to say, arguably in the case of marijuana, they were already business people.
That's my point, but now they're legitimate.
Well,
and so you could do the same with sex work.
The key there from a legal standpoint is now they're paying taxes.
Oh, yeah, that as well. But the crime rates in and of themselves, what they were doing that they could get arrested for, they could no longer be arrested for.
No.
That alone is going to drop your crime rate.
Correct. But, I mean, where do you draw the line, though, there? If we want to look at this dialectically, let's look at the flip side.
Okay.
Let's say in that scenario, marijuana's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm fine with having this conversation.
What about cocaine?
Okay, so whenever you get to things like cocaine, meth, and all that, whenever you get to the harder shit, I'm not going to be supportive of what is that? It's not delegalization or unlegal. What
you said deregulation, I think is what you're reaching for.
So what did I decriminalize?
Decriminalize. Okay.
That's what I'm going for when it comes to the harder stuff. Because a lot of the people that get involved are just people that have a problem. And if you're suffering from addiction, I don't want you to be arrested and then sent to jail where you're going to be re-educated to just become a better criminal. I want you to be arrested and then sent to get help. So I don't want it to become legalized. I just want it to become decriminalized.
Well, okay, so that leads us to a rabbit hole that I'm not going to hop into, but it goes along the lines of, we've successfully dismantled the mental health facilities in this country to the point that they are far less effective than they should be.
Yes, and part of the process.
And when I say mental health facilities, I'm talking publicly accessible.
Yes,
facilities.
and so part of the process in this is that we would reverse that. We would actually make mental health something that people care about in this country, and something that we, make an issue to pay attention to and take care of.
Well, it seems to me that, your mental health would be improved if you got laid.
That it would be amazing.
There you go.
There's a lot of unhappy people and lonely people right now. I do think that would help a lot, but I also, when it comes to the harder drugs, I think decriminalization is the way to go.
Yeah.
That way we can help people rather than punish them for having an issue. That's never made sense to me. Now that we've actually got people, like, they're trying it in Oregon, so I'd like to see how it plays out. I don't know if they're going to be successful, and I'm not 100% up to date on how they're implementing it, but it's something that I want to pay attention to see the success rate that they come out of.
The problem,
because I think it's important.
The only problem that I would think would come from decriminalization.
There we go.
is that
it's a good word to settle on.
You might have a cascade effect initially.
Possibly.
And what I mean by that is that, okay, I've got a bag of cocaine here. It's no longer illegal for me to use it, so let me share with my buddies. It's no longer illegal for them to use it, and so on and so on and so on. And so you have a cascade of addiction before public knowledge got to the correct level that, this will mess you up. So you're going to lose some people in that case. And then the argument becomes for the nanny state to step in and try and keep you safe from yourself and your own vices.
Yeah. So the thing with that scenario, though, is that you're talking about somebody that's already holding a bag of cocaine.
Correct.
All right. For everybody else that isn't already holding a bag of cocaine, who suddenly is like, oh, cocaine's like, they've decriminalized it. I'm going to go buy some cocaine.
I need some Christmas snow.
Hold on. Selling cocaine is still illegal. See, we've only decriminalized the use of cocaine, right? Everything else is still illegal. So if I don't already have a bag of cocaine, if I'm the person that's not going to do something because it would be illegal for me to do it, going out and buying it, illegal. So
True.
A lot of the fear that people have for that, that wave of initial addiction isn't actually plausible. It's still a possibility. Like you're probably going to have some sort of a spike, but it's not going to be as drastic as what a lot of people might think.
I would think that there would be a small spike, and it would probably center around, honestly, metropolitan areas where cocaine use is already prevalent. Sorry, guys in the city, in the country, we use meth.
Yeah. Stop doing coke. It's that easy. And meth, don't do meth.
Yeah, don't do that.
Meth will fuck your life up.
Dude, have you seen the posters of the effects of meth? I'm like, just your teeth?
Yeah, you basically become a zombie.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
And so anyway, back to OnlyFans. We'll get away from drugs for a little bit, but that's a conversation to have in the future because I love the conversation of decriminalizing drug use. But yeah, you sent this to me and I got really excited because it's a political party that I feel like I could get a little bit more behind.
Yeah.
Because I've been frustrated with the Libertarian Party lately.
Well, okay, so the Libertarian
2020 didn't go well with them as far as the election goes. I lost a lot of faith in them.
Well, okay, so that's because of the Libertarian Party, and if you're listening, LP, take notes. They have gotten to the point now where it's like an all or nothing games, like a zero sum game where they're all like, okay, well, let's win the presidency or let's win a high elected seat. So like the Rainwater governor race and Joe Jorgensen running for president and that kind of thing. Okay, I get it. It's important to have a presidential candidate so you can get funding under the rules for public funding. I'm tracking. Focus on local. Focus on small government. Focus on getting libertarian candidates into council member positions, water board positions, mayoral positions, sheriffs, all this kind of stuff. If you don't build a base like that,
you're never going to build traction.
You will never get traction and get to the top. Now, your ideals are great. I just question the execution.
And that's why I got frustrated. I felt like they were like, hey, we're here, but we're not really trying.
Yeah, and that was actually perpetuated by Gary Johnson when he was talking about, oh, well, we're not really trying to win the election. We're just trying to spread awareness. No, dude, you're trying to win.
Yeah, you should be trying.
If you're trying to win, you're spreading awareness. Win-win. Let's go.
Yeah,
and also do not do the worm on national TV on the Ellen DeGeneres show. What the hell was that? And that's why I like JoJo this year, because she was extremely professional, took interviews, made.
But didn't she say the same thing? We're not trying to win?
No.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
I felt like that's one of the reasons why I got frustrated in this last election.
It could be. I mean, LeVar Burton. Don't take our word for it.
Don't take our word for it. Look it up yourself. I don't remember how to spell her last. Oh, hey, look at that.
What are you? Was that 1920s voice?
Advertman?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
All right.
It just happened.
It threw me for a loop. I was sitting here having a conversation, and suddenly somebody's talking about the bourgeois.
Yeah. You should.
Yeah,
say. I don't know how to do the cigar thing. I just little duck.
Yeah. Little duck. There it is.
This is now my advert guy.
No. Okay. So this article you just looked up, where she's talking about we don't take votes for other political parties. That is correct.
Well, yeah, that is correct. That's not specifically what I was trying to find, because I thought that anyway. I'll find it eventually, or I won't, because maybe I misheard it, or I'm misremembering,
or you were just frustrated already because you couldn't go see Susie on the corner, and it's illegal.
Yeah, I miss Susie. She was a good part of my life.
I prefer Mustang Sally, but that's me.
I broke the transmission in that one.
I
don't even know what the fuck that would mean.
I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that on the issue here that we're talking about, this political party getting funding from people on OnlyFans by giving out.
And it's all volunteer.
Sexy pics. I mean, they earned, what was it, like $600 something in 13 days or something like that? Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, that's significant for a political party trying out something new.
Well, not only that, it's significant for a local political party.
Yeah.
Because this is in Maine, in one small portion of Maine.
Yeah.
And apparently I can't say the name, but
Penobscot County. I could even.
That almost sounds like
incorrectly.
Like pinup is the.
That is true.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Penob. Penobscot?
Yeah.
Penobscot. That feels like you should bounce when you say it. Penobscot.
Just bobblehead around.
Hey, put me on your OnlyFans.
Please don't.
Yeah, don't. No, you'll lose money.
But no, okay. So anyway, with this kind of fundraising, this brings to mind some of the political grandstanding that used to happen back in history, because you would have, the can girls come out and ahead of the candidate and do a little number before a speech was given, that kind of thing. And this seems like the logical evolution. Here we go.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, because let's just face, like in today's world, you've got to be able to sensationalize and grab attention.
Yeah.
This is a great way to fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So long as you have a good message going along with it, then I really don't see how this is going to do nothing but help them.
I don't see how this move actually threatens anybody either, because let's face it, the Republicans and Democrats are not going to tap funding from OnlyFans.
No,
they're not going to do it.
No, that would be fun.
Well, I'm sure most of them have.
It would be
I'm sure most of them
to
have
see.
an OnlyFans user account and go on their regular. Would not surprise me one little bit, but
yeah.
They're not going to do this. And on top of that, what if this takes off? What if you get a couple $100,000 out of OnlyFans?
It'd be great.
Be fan-freaking-tastic.
It might be more than the Libertarian Party's made in a year. I'm joking. I'm being facetious. I'm being facetious, but
no. Think about this though. This guy could get interesting because of the tax situation.
Mm-hmm.
So OnlyFans is income is all taxable and that kind of stuff. What happens when it's a political party donation? I would wonder how the tax exempt would work with OnlyFans and their current tax status as a platform. I don't know.
That's something I'd have to do some research on, but it is curious.
Yeah, because I mean, it would be important, because if you got an OnlyFans and say you're a political donor, that's tax deductible, right? If you make a political donation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, so I donated on OnlyFans. I'm turning in those receipts to the IRS.
I mean, could be worse. I would be less embarrassed to turn in an OnlyFans receipt than to turn in a donation to the Republican or Democratic Party.
Okay, hi, Grandpa.
Well, I had to slow down my words, or else I wasn't going to be able to say them correctly.
Well,
I got distracted.
Tis what it is. I've been trying to think of problems with this whole scenario, and I just can't. I can't think of any reason why the entire Libertarian Party isn't doing this.
I think they might. If this one little branch right here can show some success off of it, I think it'll spread.
Yeah. Well, okay. So this will definitely bring some backlash from the air quotes wholesome movement. So basically,
I'm okay with that. I don't like the wholesome movement. I don't think it's as wholesome as they want it to be, or how I don't think it's as wholesome as they perceive themselves to be.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, because typically when people talk about being wholesome, they've got, oh, we're the nuclear family. We've got mom and dad and 3 kids, and we don't curse, and we do everything right. And we go to church on Sunday. Fuck that shit.
And their kids are going to have tattoos and be drug addicts pretty quick after they get out of that controlling environment. I've seen it many, many times.
Yeah, I think if you want to consider yourself being a wholesome person, then you're open to other people and other cultures and other ideologies, and you don't have to be accepting of everything. But you also don't overextend your ability to control the other people's lives.
Yeah.
To me, that's wholesome. You meet a stranger, you have a conversation, you learn a little bit about them, and then you walk away a better person for it. That's wholesome. So when people talk about like the wholesome movement, they can go fuck themselves. I have no time for that. Now I make time because I like having conversations about the issues.
I was
going to
point that out because there's been some debates on the podcast that
yes, I will make the time to have conversations about them and even with them given the opportunity because I have, been lucky enough and fortunate enough to find people within that conservative environment who are willing to have a conversation.
Unfortunately, those are pretty
rare.
Yeah. And the reason I say that is because, like, for example, if I wanted to talk to a conservative today about this topic, where we got a political party, a small branch of it on OnlyFans, getting donations and ask them what they thought about it, they wouldn't want to talk about it.
No,
not at all.
No. Or they would want to talk about it, but they wouldn't want to have a conversation. They would just want to preach to you.
Yeah, that one.
And not even about religious things per se, but just preach to you as in they'll talk down to you and not talk with you.
Correct. Yeah.
And so I have a hard time with that.
Probably they'll bring up that the LP is kind of a joke at the moment, and they're not necessarily wrong in that regard, but that's the LP's own fault.
They're not taken seriously, but I think if they took themselves more seriously the way that you're talking about and actually focused on building themselves up from the ground,
yes,
rather than shooting for, oh, we shot for the stars and we landed somewhere, 30 feet up. We'll call that a win. No. Start on the ground level, build yourself up. People would start taking them more seriously because they'd actually be able to have an effect at that point.
Well, another thought that's been floated recently is stronghold states. So you know how the Republicans have their strongholds and Democrats say, okay, cool, find a state, flip it gold. South Dakota's a good option right now.
That'd be fun.
Well, the reason I say that is because South Dakota was having an economic boom, in part due to fracking, but it's also a sparsely enough populated state that you can get into there and start doing local government and build up in a rapid manner.
Yeah. And that's what they need to do. But maybe this will have the effect that they're hoping for and they can garner the support to actually get those local votes.
Well, I'll tell you one effect it's going to have. The main Libertarian Party can't walk straight right now.
I don't even know if I want you to elaborate.
No.
Okay. So speaking of conservatives, the Conservative Political Action Conference and their super Lego.
Oh, God.
Their action figure, Donald J. Trump. I almost called him Day Trump.
In gold.
Yeah.
In shorts.
In shorts and sandals.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite part about this.
No, my favorite part is the fairy wand. I don't understand why. I don't understand why somebody was like, I'm going to make a statue of Trump. We're going to give him the fairy wand. That's going to be.
Oh, man. I do love that they made it gold. That was appropriate. Yes. I've seen a couple of descriptions where they've called this life-sized. I do think that Donald J. Trump is somewhat of an odd-looking human being. I don't think that's life-sized for him.
No, that's not life-sized. It's not Humpty Dumpty looking enough, first off. Second off, he's not taller than this girl in the photo here.
And he doesn't have that much of a bobblehead effect going on.
Well, his head's pretty big.
Yeah, well, his hair's big.
That's true.
I don't think his head's that big. And look at the hands.
Are you sure that's hair, though? I've been arguing back and forth over what kind of creature it is.
It does look like some of those deep sea
urchins. I finally got my answer. So
okay.
I watched The Croods with my daughter the other night.
Oh, okay.
And it was the second one.
Yeah.
And the grandma's hair is apparently a creature that can fly, and it takes off her head to go summon help. And I'm like, so Donald Trump... His hair
that would
is made up of a prehistoric creature.
Yeah. It would explain some of his caveman-like, mentality.
Yeah, I mean,
me Trump, me smash.
Yeah. How about we think about it first, then smash? Yeah.
So a lot of people there was immediate uproar about the religious implications of this.
I could see this. The golden calf was mentioned.
Yeah, the golden calf. The only thing that really disturbs me about this is it shows how much the conservative part of the Republican Party has not given up on Donald Trump. I don't care about the religious aspect.
Okay, so yes. So let me break this down.
Okay.
Establishment Republicans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Establishment Republicans do not want Trump around.
No.
And there's a reason for that, because they're trying to push the Republican Party back to kind of a status quo sanity style of approach to governance.
Right.
Which is okay. However, well, it's not necessarily okay, but it's okay compared to what we had and what we currently have with the Democrats trying to act the same way. But something like 63% of the electorate that voted Republican said that if Donald Trump formed his own political party, they'd all split off and go with him. At what point does this not become some kind of cult mentality?
Yeah, that's the issue that I have with this, is the fact that he's still idolized to this extreme.
He gave a speech at the CPAC. Basically, I mean, what I got out of it is Republican Party's mine now. Get on board.
Yeah, and one of the things that has been going around is that instead of running for president again, that he should run for Congress. Have you seen this?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
Okay, so what they've been promoting is, instead of him running for president in 2024, that in 22 he should run for Congress so that he could become Speaker of the House, and then they could impeach. Yes, then they could impeach Biden and Harris, and then he could become president again.
Okay, this sounds like something from QAnon.
Well, it also sounds exactly like what the Democrats wanted that you judge them so harshly for. Not you, but what the Republicans were judging them so harshly for.
I completely would judge them harshly if they decided to take that complete turn. But yes,
it's exactly what they were talking against. Yeah. Yes. And I find that to be incredibly problematic. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. Go listen to it. About how they're just playing the exact same game, but then like privately and even publicly. But when they talk about it publicly, they demonize the alternative and righteousness. Yeah, I'm not using that word because I couldn't say it. But they build themselves up and they break down the other side. But they're playing the exact same fucking game.
You know, on the podcast, how I name episodes?
Yes.
This one's just going to be called Tongue Tied. But no, you're right.
We did start with a booty
However,
pick.
I can make this awesome for you.
Okay.
All right. So Donald Trump decides to run for Congress, right?
Yes.
Okay, here we are.
Okay.
In order to get elected and to get attention, he appears everywhere in gold body paint wearing shorts. I had to do it.
Yeah, but now I've got the mental image of the real Donald Trump in shorts.
You're welcome.
It's just...
Well, it'd be like seeing the real Biden in shorts. It's not any better.
No, it's not. It's not. And I don't want to body shame anybody. It's just... That's like seeing your grandpa wear the shorts at the family picnic, and then he sits down and his testicles are hanging out.
Well,
and it's just,
yeah, in their cases, that's probably what would happen.
Maybe his balls have the same toupee.
I
don't want to think about that. I'm thinking about his genitals.
I completely
too much
dismissed that thought as soon as you made it.
Yeah.
Hey, how long do you think it's going to be till we have a kind of a Church of Trump?
I'm slightly surprised that we don't already. And given the trajectory of all of this, maybe a year or two. If they found out how well they could use it as a tax haven, it would already exist.
Honestly, I got to give some credit to Donald Trump. I don't do that. Yeah, that's there it is. That's the look.
I hate when we have to give credit.
Dude is a master
manipulator.
Not just manipulator, but just a master at grabbing attention.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps the focus on himself better than any other narcissistic politician I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And of course, he's obviously had a history of doing this with The Apprentice and all, his far-flung TV aspirations and that kind of thing. Even his appearance on Home Alone. I mean,
well, he's a media whore.
He's a media whore.
Yeah, he's a media whore,
and he's got it down to a science. And
a bit, yeah.
The thing that just blew my mind whenever he was actually in office is that he was able to maintain that attention to the point that everybody thought he was still doing a good job.
And okay, so I had this conversation.
Well, not everybody, but everybody in his caucus.
Right. Like that, yeah. So I say conversation. It was almost borderline an argument with a particular family member that I argue with a lot, and they don't always go successfully. But we still love each other. We're still cool, but like we get pretty heated about this. And he was talking about why he didn't understand why everyone hated Donald Trump. He's like, oh, he had great policies and he did amazing things.
Well, he had great policies, can be amazing things. Terrible leader. Had no leadership characteristics.
That was it right there, because they immediately made the comparison that everyone makes. And he was like, but Obama. Now, I didn't like Obama either. All right. But I offered Obama credit where credit was due. And so essentially their argument broke down to Obama had shitty policies, but spoke very well. And Trump had amazing policies, but spoke really shitty. And I was like, okay, so you're
that's actually a fair comparison.
Well, and that's how I got them to a bit of a middle ground. I was like, you're agreeing with me on Obama.
No, I don't like all of Trump's policies. Didn't like all of Obama's policies, but I understand.
Not all of them were shit for Obama either.
No,
right? But that's kind of where they broke it down. And I was like, okay, but you're agreeing with me. Obama spoke really well. Didn't really like him as president. They're like, yeah. And I said, okay, so why don't you agree with me when I say that I don't like Trump because he was a bad leader, because he could not handle the public well? Oh yeah, but his policies. I said, no, dude, that's fucking hypocritical. Well, like my criticism of Trump, that if he had all these amazing policies, if he'd been able to also handle his public speaking well, wouldn't that have made him a much better leader? And it was that cognitive dissonance of, oh yeah, you're right, but he was still a great president. I'm like, no, you're missing the fucking point. You need the whole package.
The thing is that people lose sight of the presidency and what it actually is intended to do. The president is intended to be a figurehead. Now, yes, commander-in-chief, all that good stuff, but as a figurehead of a nation, you're literally saying that I am the leader of this nation. So when things happen on your watch, you're responsible for them. When you have to make speeches and communicate with other countries and actually enact some kind of
diplomacy,
well, not necessarily diplomacy, but decorum.
Same thing.
In how you present yourself.
Same thing.
If you can't do that, you're not qualified for the job.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't care what your policies are. And I fully endorse that policies set by the president shouldn't necessarily be the policies of the country. The policies should be set in the legislature.
Yes.
And issuing executive orders to make policy changes for the country in a very ad hoc basis is not a good idea. Now, we've done it throughout more and more throughout the history of our country. I believe Reagan issued a couple of controversial executive orders.
Good old Reagan.
Well, Clinton did a few too, and then W. He had a few. Obama had a good many, and Donald Trump actually blew the lid off it initially until Biden took over, and now Biden's just freaking tearing through. And at what point do we...
As many as he can write in a day.
At what point do we devolve from a republic or a democracy, whichever way you would like to describe the country? Personally, I like republic. Into a dictatorship at that point. Because we're one thing that Joe Biden has put in his policy roadmap that I actually really like is that he wants to repeal a bunch of the War Powers Act, which gives the president carte blanche to do forever wars. I'm okay with this. Congress should be declaring war, not the president.
Yeah. And that's how it's supposed to be anyway.
Correct.
Yeah. That's a misconception that I've had to kind of backpedal people on. It was like, look, the president can't go to war. He can suggest it. He can be in support of it, but he can't actually declare war.
Well, the president can send in a policing action, but there's a time limit on the amount of time that those troops can be sent out.
Yeah. And
part of the War Powers Act kind of watered that down. Well, go read it for yourself, folks. I'm not going to go deep into it.
Yeah. We're going to keep this light because I do want to hit on this real quick just because it caught my attention this morning. The Kentucky bill that I was talking about. So in Kentucky, they've proposed this bill. And it's supposed to, I think it gets voted on this week. But anyway, so this bill basically makes it illegal to accost. I'm fine with that, right?
Okay.
That's assault anyway.
All right.
But insult, taunt, or challenge a law enforcement would become illegal.
So we're talking law enforcement officer or anybody in law enforcement?
It literally just says here, law enforcement officer with offensive or derisive words or by gestures or other physical contact. Now, I don't like the other physical contact immediately being tagged onto gestures because gestures don't necessarily dictate physical contact.
Okay.
I mean, that's a gesture that cops get a lot.
Yeah, that verbiage is bad, but there's a tail end to this.
Let's see.
It says that would have a direct tendency to provoke a violent response.
Yes. Now, that is probably the part that upsets me the most because that is up to the opinion and the judgment of the police officer receiving said taunt. I don't like that.
Okay, so as a one sentence deal, this is not really that precise, but
okay, this is not about. Okay, I'm not going to get to that part yet. The reason why I find this to be disturbing is because there are times where you should be able to talk back to a cop. It's not necessarily advised, right?
No.
But I'm also not the person to say that you should always be compliant when you're dealing with a police officer. I don't think that is always true. I don't even think that it's always necessary, but I also don't think that it's always the best route to take. There are times where not even yourself directly dealing with a police officer, but if you're walking by and you see someone actively being harassed by a police officer, this stops you from being able to step in.
Yeah, it does.
Because not only were you, because right now you could be charged with obstruction of justice, but then they have to go and they have to back that up in court. With this, it opens up the freedom for the cop to just have his own personal judgment to be like, oh no, well, I was assaulted. I felt threatened. How?
Yeah, I'm trying to think this. I'm trying to think through this and figure out.
It is fresh information.
In what scenario would a police officer need this protection?
They wouldn't.
I agree.
They have all of the protections that they need in place. There's already assault on a police officer, which you get charged at a higher level, right? To a higher degree. There's already obstruction of justice. Now we have to protect your feelings.
Yeah, that seems a little disingenuous. I mean, yes, feelings are important in a lot of scenarios, but in this case, you're supposed to take your feelings out of this particular job.
Right. And as much as I've argued on
and
this
platform,
platform
and if you don't have
before,
the ability to do that, you don't need to be doing a job.
Yeah, I've argued on this platform before about certain limitations to free speech because I do think that hate speech is an issue. And I'm not promoting hate speech against police officers, but if I'm having a bad day and I'm frustrated, I don't think me telling a cop to go fuck himself should get me in jail.
Yeah, I find that.
I don't think me telling anybody to go fuck themselves should get me in jail.
No.
But according to this. But then it does have further implications because they bring up protests. And they're saying that this would help propagate lawful protests, peaceful protests.
You're right. And what I think they're driving at there is that, looking at this from the other side, what they're driving at there is that, well, we had cities literally on fire from protests. Those were not peaceful.
Yes, and we have laws in place for that. Destruction of public property, vandalism,
and people
inciting a riot, rioting in the first place. All of these things you can be currently arrested for.
Yeah, but all of those things, though, are at the discretion of the current enforcing body. So in order to get arrested for rioting, the police actually have to declare a riot in most municipalities. For example, in Portland,
if your city's been on fire for 2 hours, I feel like you've had plenty of time to do it.
I agree. Now, the other thing is that if you have actually declared a riot and the riot is happening, and this is going to conflict a little bit with my non-government interference stance. I'm a complicated guy.
That's fine.
But it's time to roll in there and shut this thing down. Now,
yes.
People are going to argue and say, okay, you used excessive force, but I mean, it's either do that or literally lose the place you live in.
Yeah.
And when I say do that, I'm not talking about using excessive force. That's the accusation you're going to get because you're going to roll in there with bear mace and water cannons and rubber bullets and this kind of stuff to disperse the crowd that's destroying property and causing millions of dollars worth of damage, burning down apartment buildings in some cases.
Yeah.
Mostly businesses. So I'll give them that. Mostly business.
I'll outdo you and take some of the pressure off of you.
All right.
One of the criticisms that I had over the protests and the issues that we had over the last year and a half, 2 years, if your position has gotten to the point where rioting has become a norm, just get organized and revolt. Because rioting is not going to be effective. You cause a riot, they shut the fucking riot down. Get organized, revolt. Now, I'm not promoting any particular organization one way or the other or from any side of the...
What you're saying is if you feel like rioting is your only recourse, it's a hop, skip, and a jump next door.
Yeah, if you need violence, might as well be effective with it. You're going to get a better outcome. Like, you actually have a chance at that point, but this disorganized chaos means nothing.
Well,
but my issue with
honestly, the disorganized chaos, in my theory, just small tangent for just a second here. My theory is that since everybody was locked down and they were mentally unprepared for that long term of being without contact with all the people they normally contact with and go hang out and whatever, they saw it, didn't see it, but subconsciously accepted it as an outlet and immediately jumped into it with both feet and tried to utilize it as a emotional outlet. That wasn't the whole story, but
I could see that for some people.
guarantee you that happened with some people. And then we had other folks that were more worried about actual issues or something like that.
My main issue with this is there's a lot of things that happened that protests took place for.
Yes.
That were absolutely necessary, 100% justified, and something that we needed socially to come together and point out these issues and say this was fucking wrong.
Right. And it's like when we had the unaired episode and that individual asked us, hey, do you guys think racism is an issue? And everybody around the table was like, yes, we do. We have different ideas on how to deal with it and try to overcome it.
Right.
But it is an issue.
Yes. It doesn't escape me that Kentucky is the state that Breonna Taylor was killed in.
Yeah,
and
I was going to point that out here in a minute.
Putting this out. Okay. So when someone is killed and then the community comes together and says, hey, this was fucking wrong and we need to talk about some police reform.
Let's take race out of it for just a second there and say, okay, if you're hanging out in your house and the police break in and you get shot, is that some kind of country you want to live in?
No, it's not.
Now, I get the fact that Breonna Taylor's house was associated with drug trade and
shouldn't have mattered.
It doesn't matter. If the cops have probable cause, you're supposed to come in and subdue. You're not supposed to just blaze.
Yeah. So like but not getting too deep into everything that happened with Breonna Taylor. The fact is the community saw a problem and they got together, they organized and they said, hey, there's something wrong here. We need to have a conversation about reform. All right. Some of it was a little nastier than maybe people wanted it to be. But when you're dealing with an issue like this, I can see
a little nastier, dude.
I can say I'll get nasty. I'll take the cat claws out. I'm perfectly fine with that. All right. I'm not going to get too much on a soapbox with this one, I promise.
Okay.
The main issue here is people wanted to open up a conversation about police reform. And now you're putting forth a bill that would make it impossible to have said conversation. All right. It's not just that they're putting forward that it would be illegal to insult or make rude gestures to a cop. It's the fact that they added in here, and let me find it again. All
right, the lawful protest bit.
Well, it does make protests difficult because if you get together as a protest and then suddenly there's a line of cops standing in between you and everybody else, things are going to be said. You shouldn't be, committing a crime by simply saying those things, especially when you live in the land of the free with freedom of speech, right? If I'm at a protest and a cop gets in my face and I tell him, hey, back the fuck up or go fuck yourself or fuck you or whatever fuck I want to say, I shouldn't be committing a crime right there.
Right. But once again, have respect for the police officer.
Yes, you should.
It's a very tough job.
Okay, so let me preface it this way. I understand that part of the goal with this could be to helping and de-escalate the potential for violence at a protest.
Right.
Right? Because once you get to the point where people are getting frustrated with the cops and they start yelling, then suddenly they're throwing and then they're attacking. I get that.
Yeah.
But solving that is not by throwing out a blanket statement of saying, in any situation, can you not insult or make rude gestures at a cop?
I feel like
because this isn't specifically directed at protests. This is just one scenario that could take place, right? And so it even has ridiculous fines. They're like, oh, this is a serious issue, $250 fine. Okay.
Yeah.
3 months imprisonment, and you could also lose 3 months of your state assistance. So if you're getting like food stamps or Medicaid, you lose that for 3 months as well.
That seems targeted.
And a little bit, it does. But also, if this is such a serious issue, 3 months, $250, I can go to a protest with $300 and walk away with enough change.
Yeah. So the thing with this that I think's going on is that, once again, back to the political parties and their bases, this is literally pandering. This is a vote grab.
It is, but the problem is it's happening in Kentucky where they have the voters to make it happen.
Exactly.
And so the other side of this issue that I disagree with so much is I just fucking had it too. Jesus. Okay, right here, the guy that put forth the bill was quoted saying, governmental entities responsible for the funding of the various law enforcement agencies shall maintain and improve their respective financial support to the Commonwealth's law enforcement agencies. So not only is this bill saying you can't hurt my cops' feelings, but you're also not allowed to defund us in any way.
Okay, so it's not saying defund in any way, but I could see that if you got into a court scenario that somebody might try to bring a suit, provided the court allowed the suit to be brought, that, basically said, okay, cool, well, you decided to pull this particular program and reduce our funding. Well, you're actually obligated to fund us, and then try to have some sideways logic to say, okay, well, since you have the fact that you cannot defund the police in here, then you can't reduce their funding.
But I find that to be an issue because there's already procedures in place about how they get their funding and where they use their funding. Right.
But those procedures are flawed, terribly flawed. I mean, why does a sheriff's department need a freaking MRAP?
But that's what I'm getting at. We could right now open up the floor to conversation about defunding the police, saying, hey, you don't need all of this shit. And as a society, as a culture, as human beings who should care about each other, we could use that money in other aspects of our life. If this becomes the norm, we're not even allowed to ask for that level of defunding.
Okay, so to be clear, defund is a bad word. What you're talking about is budget reduction.
That's okay.
I realize it's still defunding, but defunding is a hot button word right now, and people are going to get the wrong idea.
People associate defunding with abolishment.
Correct.
I will go on record saying that abolishing the police departments is fucking ridiculous.
No, dumb idea.
We need cops.
Yep.
Right? We need law enforcement. We do need, as a society, that's one thing that we need. We just don't need it to the financial level that they're currently receiving.
What we need is better trained police officers. And I've floated this idea before where you reduce appropriations for equipment that cops clearly don't need. You don't need an MRAP or an armored vehicle. You might need one or two, I guess, and maybe
depending
some SWAT scenarios. But, I mean, call the National Guard. Those guys are bored anyway. Hey.
I didn't say it.
They know it. They're not upset. I've been in those shoes before.
Yeah.
But no, okay, so let's take away some of the appropriations for stuff like that. The toys, the ones that sit on the shelf that you never use, and let's put that toward training.
Yeah. That would be great, but like I said, this shuts down that conversation.
Exactly. And that's why I have a big problem with it, because I think we have a training gap.
Yeah.
I don't think cops are evil. I think we have a training gap.
They're woefully unprepared for most of the situations that they find themselves
exactly.
in.
They don't have the social tools. They don't have the mental tools to be able to go into a situation and not have to resort to pulling their weapon.
Yes, I will say that I'm gonna go back and end this on a slightly
some
better
do.
note.
There are good cops out there. Don't take my statement as a
There's a lot of great cops out there.
I have friends that are great police officers that work inside their community and organize baseball games and all kinds of stuff. I mean, the policing profession is hard.
Yes.
And there's a reason not too many people want to do it.
Or should be doing it.
Yeah. That too.
And so I grew up in a family of law enforcement. I have friends in law enforcement that are currently, like I was going to say serving, but active. And I love these guys. They're great cops. They're great people. I still reserve my right to criticize when they do a bad job. Right. I acknowledge that there's not just some, there's a lot of great law enforcement. Because here's the thing, if bad cops were the most prevalent cop that you come across, this country would be falling apart at a rate much faster than it currently is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great cops in this country. It is a shitty job. It's a very difficult job. It's a job that they're woefully unprepared to do most of the time. I acknowledge all of that. But when I see something like that basically says, hey, we're going to be able to hide from any level of transparency, you can go fuck yourself. I don't care who you are in this country. You should not be able to hide in your job to that level.
Now, to be clear, the quotes that you're pulling might be somewhat sensationalized.
They could be, but the overall effect of this bill of...
No, I understand the overall effect. I'm just saying that what you at home would need to do is you need to go pull this bill and read the text. Do not take our words for it. Do not take our opinions as gospel. Pull it and read the text.
And from multiple sources.
The actual text of the bill.
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about pulling up these articles.
And if you pull up articles, that's okay.
I haven't had time to go multiple sources. Hold on, I actually had it just a second ago. 211, I think, is the bill, because I haven't had time. Because like I said, I found this morning before everything kind of kicked off, and I hadn't had time to pull because that's what we were doing with HR 127 when we talked about it.
Yep.
I haven't. But had time
I actually had HR 127 pulled, and I already had the information for that one ready to go.
This was
because that's a travesty
that
of legislation, and Sheila Jackson Lee is not a good legislator at all.
It weighs about as much as 10 boxes.
Oh, I'm not ragging on her because of any other reason than she put forth
a shitty bill.
Piece of legislation.
Yeah,
and it's not the only one that she's done recently, and they're all some level of bad.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it was 211, but
I think it's HL 211 in Kentucky.
This was very brand new information that came across that it just immediately raised my hackles. I'm going to pull the actual bill and go through it to see if I'm somewhat on spot. I'm pretty sure I am, but to me, this just feels like extra redundancies in protection that is not necessary.
Yeah. At what point do you have to say, okay, well, you agree to do this job, you have to be mentally tough to do this job. Therefore, a qualification to be able to even get into this job is to have the mental fortitude to survive being called names.
Right.
And if you can't, you probably can't do this job.
Yeah. And if they escalate beyond that, then, well, we have laws in place for you to be able to deal with that.
Exactly.
You don't need a Band-Aid for your boo-boo.
I mean,
I'm not quite sure why.
I might. They got the little Flintstone Band-Aids still. Those things are great.
It comes with extra power. Yeah. But don't forget that the Libertarian Party is now promoting fundraising on OnlyFans.
And if you would like to talk about how the Libertarian Party is promoting fundraising on OnlyFans, email us at mattchat@downrightdialectical.com and include the reason why you donated to the Libertarian Party.
And if you tell me a funny enough joke, I will send you a voice clip of him trying to say Penobscot County.
Oh, man. Right. That'll be their new ringtone.
Yeah.
This is the outro.
Oh. We didn't talk over it this time.
I know. Weird. I was waiting on you to start. I'm sitting there going, where's the conversation?